Hey, what's
I can't drink.
Good evening, music multiverse listeners. This is Beyond Your Radio, and welcome to another episode of What's in Your Ear. Our panelists have been listening to all kinds of music, and we can't wait to hear their albums that have been in their headphones over the last week or so. Each show is completely unique, obviously, and should really be an ear opener for anybody who's attending and listening. Want to hear about some bands or albums they might not have known about, or in case some have forgotten. Like I said many times over, it's impossible to listen to everything. Believe me, I'm the idiot that tries. So based on tonight's panel, it's the three of us again. We'll be getting some of our panelists joining us very soon. I think a couple people have two and I have three. So that's kind of how we'll roll tonight. So I'm going to kick it off with Alex, with your first one, which I'm hoping it's in the order you sent me.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're good there.
Well, then I will give you the floor.
Yes. So Kings of Leon, their album When You See Yourself from 2021. So today I'll kind of preface with why these two. I actually just got done golfing a little bit today. And of course, I have the luxury right now of carts not being out on the course. So everything's on foot.
You're huffing it.
Yeah. And my legs are feeling that.
Okay.
And so are the scores to my golf game. So the beauty of that, though, that I'm starting to realize is that you can throw the AirPods in and when you're walking the course solo. So I wanted to pick some of the more soothing albums in my collection that I really enjoy. And this is easily the first one that when I need to go into that trance of being a little bit more relaxed and just kind of some thoughtless music, this goes with it. It's a great album. It plays very mellow. It's typical Kings of Leon, where you know what you come to expect with them. But at the same time, I think that's the beauty of them in this case, and one of the reasons why it's an easy album for me to pick. It has its moments where it gets a little faster and a little bit more up tempo, but it's still that same Kings of Leon undertone that just kind of brings it right back down to not being a heavy play. I know this is a very easy one for people to find, but also not one that I really think gets a ton of radio play at all for the one or two songs that really come off of it as hits. So I think for me, this is, kind of a good, easy layup choice because I just walked 4 holes of the 9 playing this album. And, this kind of just fit that mood for me.
Yeah, it's a shorter. Well, they don't make long records, but I thought it was a little short.
Track wise, yeah, it's only 11. And I think really the only disappointment of this album is it doesn't sound good when the AirPod falls out of my ear mid swing and I catch it on the follow through and knock an AirPod 10 yards down the fairway. So, which did happen today.
As long as you yell 4.
Well, it did almost kill the 3 mosquitoes that it was going to come by. So I'm really wishing it would have taken out at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it is a shorter album on the track side. But Kings of Leon tends to put out a couple songs. I mean, they're in the 3 to 4 minute range, pretty much anything they put out. So, very typical that way. But again, it's not something that when it comes to your end of the year list, I don't really, expect their albums to really appear on it in the future, even still, until they shake up their style a little bit. But other than that, they're consistent. They're good. And you know what to expect with them.
I remember when they first came out, it fit. You know what I mean? I don't think there's progression, but I still think they're true to their character and the way they play. I mean, I likened them into an indie rock band to some extent. There's no alt to them. There's no anger management that they need to recompense for. So you're right. It's an easy listen.
They're a band that when I want to couple them to somebody, almost to make my own music bite or meal to music, but just of albums that I'll throw some bands together with. These guys always tend to go with the Black Keys for me. And I think it's because similar to this album and maybe one that makes a future appearance, because I guarantee it'll be in my ear more often, is Delta Cream by the Black Keys. Is these 2 albums, the mood is very similar to when I want to play each one.
I might have to go back because I hold Delta Cream in pretty high regard. So that's got a New Orleans blues riff just screaming through the whole thing. But
And for me, they're
another day, I
both
guess.
different. And they're both different for their different reasons, right? But at the same time, they play that mood when you're like, all right, I want to transition from one to the other, shake the track list up. They can both play well, and you have no complaints about any track going on in them. And actually goes into what we were talking about the other day or the other week, which is you can play these albums whenever, front to back, every track, and not skip a song. And this is one of those albums for me.
Right. Okay. Jeff, what you got?
My turn. My turn.
It's your turn. Hey, shirts and skins.
Yeah, you got it. And I'm not standing up, that's for sure.
Well, I can tell you this, we certainly be wearing it here. It's like, 48 degrees.
Yeah, it's 80, 86.
Ah,
Very balmy today. Very warm, very humid, very balmy.
no trade winds, huh?
Oh, we got good trades going now. I'm gonna say 18 to 20s, but it's still warm.
Nice.
Still warm. No, it's beautiful. The absolutely gorgeous day. Okay, well, the first thing is in my ear it was been in my ear for the last 2 weeks. Yesterday, I did a music challenge with Miss Sue, and she picked the Philosopher's Kings, the first album, Philosopher's Kings. Well, I listened to the album, I'm going to say conservatively 18 times in the last 2 weeks, because I like to know my music. If I listen to a song and I want to rate it, I got to be able to almost sing half the songs. So I love the album. I love the band. They will definitely become one of my regular in the ears. They're, what can I say? The Canadian band. They're great. I mean, really are. And the more I listen to it, the more I want to listen to more. I started getting into a couple little bits of their shuffle. Because I have Apple Music, I can download what. So I downloaded every single one of their songs, put them in a group, and then just shuffle. So you can hear a lot of good stuff that way because you don't know what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but they're fabulous. I mean, really, it's hard. I've already said. I said if you watch yesterday's, you're gonna see that I gave him 23 points.
Yeah.
And only the album cover got smacked on that one. But I anybody who has not listened to them, at least give them a try. They really are. As I told him yesterday, I find him a cross between Manhattan Transfer and Billy Joel.
Yeah,
So,
I get the Manhattan Transfer, the Billy Joel. Is that on the vocal side? Maybe is that
some of the song wise and vocal wise and stuff like that. But that last one they do of a woman, that's pure Billy Joel.
Yeah.
So
Songwriting.
don't have much to say. It's just that
okay.
this one was, it's a good album. People should check out anything that they've done, and we will be here for the next one.
Cool.
Your turn.
All right.
I feel like we're slowly by the end of this going to turn Jeff into a what's the Canadian version of Hawaii?
Shut up.
He made mention that I'm his Canadian connection.
His music tastes will make him somewhat of a Scotian, a Newfie. Where are we going with this?
Yeah. A Hawaiian lender.
At least he'll be eating good. You'll be eating good
Hawaiian.
seafood.
It's the Hawaiian Canuck.
The Hawaiian Canuck. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
the
it.
Dark Canuck.
Yeah, honestly, that's a good band name.
It's
Mark the Hawaiian Canuck.
It's Mark and Sue's fault. They keep sending me music, like a nice guy. I listen to it, but it's all Canadian. I think that's all I can do. Canadian connection here. So
that's what I do. That's what I do.
Well, I saw the Bills in concert, and you didn't even tell me about them before I saw them.
It's true. That's true.
And they were just out of this world.
Yeah.
We're very familiar with the Bills up here.
Wrong Bills.
Wrong. No, I like both. I like both Bills. So
Yeah.
no, I'm a Bills fan, my friend.
Yeah,
Very
he
much.
is. He was on my couch for the Kansas City game.
Yeah.
Watching my wife freak out over the whole thing.
Yeah.
The infamous cheese dip. Oh,
There you go. Hey. Man's gotta eat.
Hey, Mark, let's hear yours.
All
Let's
right,
go.
so I'm gonna start off with something extremely old. So I'm gonna start off with Art Tatum, and Piano Starts Here. So how did this happen? So I watch other YouTube channels of music because I want to absorb what I can, considering the medium that it is, right? While we're doing this to showcase artists that people might not know or might not have experienced, I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking around all the time. So what led me to this? There's a YouTuber who had stated that this might be one of the most important jazz records ever made. So, and it kind of falls in line with this idea that you never know in that era who's going to be that individual who people remember 100 to 200 years later. Okay. Point made would be Bach. Okay. He was long dead before anybody knew. It's just fact, right? Somebody would say, oh, who the hell was he? Who cares? Yeah, well, by 1821, everybody cared, right? And then it moves on from there. So Art Tatum started playing this. Now, so Piano Starts Here. So obviously, he's a pianist, okay? And he might be one of the most remarkable pianists, jazz pianists that has tickled the ivories, we'll call it. In 1933, I want to say this was kind of put together. In 1949, I think he kind of cinched how unmatched he was by his version of Tiger Rag, during which he sounds like he's three pianists. He's not. His hands are moving that fast. And, think again, this is 1933, 41, 48, 49. And this album doesn't come out until 1968, technically. So he's got, the CD consists mostly of Tatum's first studio sessions as a leader, which T for Two, St. Louis Blues, Tiger Rag, Sophisticated Lady. I think it was the spring of 49, kind of, that's the idea, I guess. It's just ridiculous how rapid he can play. There's even a Tatum Pole Boogie. This is essential set of miraculous music that cannot be praised highly enough. And it's 68. So there is actually another Piano Starts Here record that's a live performance. I also had that. I picked that up as well. So thanks to a YouTuber, which I might name later on. I don't like to name drop yet until I've experienced a lot more from the individual, but I believe him to be a very knowledgeable jazz associated individual. And I like the way he presents himself. So my first album is Art Tatum, and it's Piano Starts Here. It didn't start there, but it's certainly magically seems like it started there with a guy who could move his fingers faster than lightning. So
I think of three things off of what you said, and it's number one, wouldn't be something if his album was named Piano Starts Here and he ended up being really good at like the saxophone or the flute or something like that. Like that would have been absolutely grade A humor for that era.
Yes.
Two, he named an NHL team way back when with his St. Louis Blues track.
Yeah.
And three, when I think of more seriously on this note, someone who had that influence on me in terms of feeling like it was multiple people playing the same instrument at one time. I've always had that impression of Victor Wooten with the bass guitar, which could be alluding to something that's coming up in my future for these shows too,
I
as
like
well.
that.
That has been something I've been digging into, because actually on my mantle over there, I have one of his books that I have been wanting to dive into. So might put a little album to the book in my head and get behind it. But when I think of that feeling of having an artist be able to play so quickly and so complex that you think that there's multiple going on, that's how I kind of link the two together, even if it's a little bit different of the instrument of choice. So
Well, let's also understand too, like some people say that the drums by Phil Collins and several of the fills, they're like, I see people mimic it. They have to use two drummers on the same drum set. Okay. But you got to remember the recording studios in 1980 versus 1941, right? They can't layer that many tracks. You know what I mean? He's not layering tracks. He's playing.
right.
You know, it's the most they had in 41 was probably a 4-track, maybe. I might be wrong, but
They could cross. They actually in 41 they only had 2 tracks. 4
2-track.
tracks come out to 46.
Okay.
So,
What's
so
the
they can layer 2 tracks.
So what's the old Dave Grohl story? He used to first start making songs because he would record them on a cassette tape, throw in the cassette tape, play, throw in the next cassette tape over that, play while that's playing, and he'd do his own multi-track that way.
Correct. Yeah.
It was the old Dave Grohl
Same
story.
principle. Yeah. Just shittier media.
Amateur style.
Yes. Yes. But hey, got to go somewhere, right? So, Alex, back to you.
Yeah. So my second and least final one of the day again goes to something that I play on the golf course often, and start by introducing it as "Let It Roll" by Midland from 2019. Reason being on something that I've found interesting about this band being country, and I've talked to Mark about them a little bit too, is they're not the modern country. I don't get the pop vibe off of them. They're one of the few bands that, and when I say few, I'm very few, that really give me the essence of a taste of 80s or 90s country, something that just starts to go back a little bit more in era.
Well, the picture on the cover certainly screams Dukes of Hazzard meets Miami Vice. Is that?
And I will tell you, they dress the part 100%, even down to the facial hair. It's the dark mustaches, the long hair, the bell-bottom pants, anything. They definitely do the part that way. But these guys, they haven't put out an album that's missed yet. This is just happens to be one of my favorite of them. I think, playing 2 albums on the course, really all I did was I threw on Midland's entire catalog on my phone. But this album had the songs that you get the occasional track some days that when you're just listening, you just go, yep, that one just fits right now. So
do you have a track listing?
Yeah.
I want to, again, not a country guy.
Yeah.
Right. What are the tracks? What are the names of the track?
Let me interrupt. I never got
Yeah.
the name of the band.
Midland.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
MIDLAND.
I've heard of them.
Let It Roll is the record.
Yep.
I think it's, what was the year?
2019.
Okay.
Yep. So it's Let It Roll, 14 Gears, Mr.
Okay.
Lonely, Cheating Songs, Put the Hurt on Me.
Cheating. Got that. Okay.
I'll get into that in a second. Put the Hurt on Me, I Love You Goodbye, Every Song is a Drinking Song, 21st Century Honky Tonk American Band,
Okay, I can like that.
Fast Hearts and Slow Towns, Cheating by the Rules, Playboys, Lost in the Night, Get in the Feel, and Roll Away.
That's a lot of tracks.
The 14 tracks. One of the things that I will say is with this band, their tracks don't always give you the perception of what it's going to be. They've been really good. Now, this album doesn't display it maybe as much. I actually think Cheating Songs is the one that does. But their albums don't, you have an idea in your head the second you see the track name. You play it and nothing like what you thought it was going to turn out to be.
Cool.
And that's one of the things I've liked about this band is, again, modern country, very predictable. You know what's coming. These guys have been anything but that. They've been original. They've given you a taste of classic. They've kind of brought country back to what the roots originally were. So if these guys ever say who their influences are and they go back to some of the 70s through 90s, I would 100% believe it. They're one of the bands that you can go, yeah, I hear that now, rather than just saying, yeah, I used to listen to that growing up, but I'm doing this top 40 country now. So they have a few songs that have made it as hits. Off this album, I actually think I don't know that any of them made it as a true single off of this album. 14 Gears got used again as I think it was a lead track on another album. Want to say, let me looking it up real quick. Yeah, the first song on the Sonic Ranch album by them, and they did an Adobe version.
Wow.
A little bit more of a southern twist. I mean, their Texas roots really show. And
Okay, it's Texas. I couldn't remember.
yeah, and honestly, I just tried to immerse myself when I was down there, and had to, because of my job, drive across 8 hours of the state of Texas. That I will tell you, it fits the culture of being down there very, very well. It does its job, and you feel it in the music when you first hear it, and you go, "Is that what it's like?" And then you get down there, you play the album while you're doing it, and you go, "I get this vibe entirely," and the grassroots, organic feel to their background and their upbringing. So, yeah, really great album, a great band. I couldn't recommend more for people who want to get into a little bit of a taste of the older side of country for a modern band, and so you can hear new music coming from these guys. Not a single album that I wouldn't recommend from them yet.
Cool. Well, we'll go back to Mr. Johnson in Hawaii there, and what's your second pick of the night?
Okay, it's time to blow you guys away a little bit.
All right.
As you say, that this is called In Your Ear.
Yeah.
And my title of this particular segment is Forced in Your Ear. So, as you guys know, I have a weekend gig here and there, and I work in the office. And because I am extremely low man on the toilet room, I have no musical pull at all. I was going to say permission, but pull is a good word for it. So this last weekend, this guy was hooked onto one album. I listened to it 4 times, and it's definitely not my cup of tea by any means, but it was listenable. It was The Diary of Alicia Keys by Alicia Keys.
Okay. All right.
And the guy is a total Alicia Keys freak out, you know. He's flown as far as New York, Florida, Chicago to see her. So a nut, basically. Wow. I did not mind the album. I thought when he told me what he was going to play, I would hate it, and I didn't. It was pop. It was new, you know, even though this album's 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know, it's still, it was clean. She's a phenomenal singer. Whether I like what I hear or not in the song she chooses, her voice is pretty amazing. So I don't think you get to the stardom that she's at without having a very good voice. So, but I don't have much to say except that was what's in my ear.
Yeah.
You know, it's not one of my favorite things to listen to, but I enjoyed it. I mean, it was doing what I do on the computers, having something like in the background's not too bad at all.
Yeah. It's not her first record, right? No, but it was the one that caught fire. Well, I shouldn't say that because one of them is Girl on Fire or whatever.
Right.
But I do the the studio likes her voice, right? It you know, it sucks it in. She's a pretty good pianist in that regard too.
He's an excellent pianist.
I mean, she's kind of turned a little bit into a progressive-ish pop with rap in it, and she's including that kind of stuff is starting to that wears on me because it doesn't fit her voice. She's
And everybody's doing this progress. They gotta put a little bit to okay, got a song with 19 bars and 18 of them have to be a little rap.
yeah.
You know,
Well, but I think I would say to that point too, there's a certain legitimacy that whether you're her or someone that I think has always also been the male equivalent of her has been John Legend.
Yeah,
I kind of
absolutely.
it's a good comparison.
I pair the two very close together, but I feel like they do the same thing where nothing they do solo has really ever been the hit, but anything that features them has legitimacy because of them and their musical talent, or anytime that they do something, but it features somebody outside of their realm. So you added someone with the rap background or something has always been successful. Nothing they've ever really done solo from the mainstream side, and maybe just from the common listener has ever been like, it's them, but it's solo. But yet you can name something where it's been like Alicia Keys and Jay-Z doing Empire State of Mind. I can name that one right away.
Yeah.
It's just
last year's record, what Key of Keys?
yes.
not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's a double record, but it's not. It's just this. The second record is a different take on the first. So, and I found it's unusual for an artist to do that. It was kind of unique. Some of the songs were very melodic, and once they were changed, I thought it was pretty good. It was on my list of top 22 albums of 22.
Well, it's not to say that anything too that they put out isn't good. It's just from the, and this goes into why the show is what it is for us, but nothing they do really ever is something that you're just on the radio and you're like, yes, I need to listen to that 72 more times on repeat. It's never been their style.
Jeff had to.
I don't listen to that station.
But I will say, like, their stuff is without a doubt, it's awesome. But it takes having to separate that time and be in a situation like Jeff was in, where you're forced to listen to it, and you're not thinking like, you know what I really want right now? Some Alicia Keys is really going to do the trick. So that's a good call. It's interesting you stumble upon that, but it's cool to hear a different perspective.
All I know is I'm sure glad the guy wasn't into Def Leppard or something, you know. Then I really...
Pour Some Sugar on Me has been poured, and then right.
At least he wasn't into ABBA.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's.
That would have been really bad.
Jeff would have been in the break.
My job right there. I would have quit. It's
Give me a new job after midnight.
No, hostile midnight. Hostile takeover.
Hostile takeover.
No, hostile workplace. That's where I was going. But I like the hostile takeover. You know, could happen. You know.
Jeff, put down the missile launcher, please.
Hey, Mark.
All right.
Oh man.
So my next one is I'm going in the progressive realm. I've been wanting to listen to this particular band for a while, and it's taken me a while to get to them because there's so many on my list, especially in the progressive rock. I watched one of the shows that does a brilliant job of it, and they went alphabetically, thank God. So I got to sit there every week and start my list from A to Z. It's for my Canadian friends to get all the progressive people. I'm like, who the hell is that? So this band is called Cynic, and the album is Kindly Bent to Free Us. So fantastic album cover, by the way, really cool. Oh, we lost Jeff. Oh, he'll come back.
Yeah, he'll make it. Actually, it made it so I could actually see the album cover from.
Yeah, I guess, you know, you're gonna have a bigger screen, right?
No, but I can't. I'll tell you what, I actually kind of like that I can't clearly see what it is, because I'm looking from here and going, it looks like a brain. It looks like someone cut a watermelon in half, kind of.
It's a tree.
I can't. It's different.
Yes.
It's interesting.
So who is Cynic? So Cynic is actually in its early stages was a death metal band. And death metal, I'm no judge. It was never in my wheelhouse as a younger individual. Not to say how old I am, but I was born in a different era that kind of I stayed in Genesis, Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, and I like both sides of Genesis, where there are people on the progressive side that like the early Genesis, not the late Genesis. So here's this Cynic, and I'm like, wow. And someone,
At least you're on the early stages where it's the book of Genesis.
yes. So I finally get to hear this record, and this record is from 2014. God, I got my things messed up. I think it's
I was about to say 19's recent.
Yeah. So the band kind of reformed itself and changed dramatically. And obviously there are fans that obviously didn't like the change. But what it does is it tells you that death metal has fairly talented musicians that understand composition. They understand progressive rock at its root and where you can go from that. And obviously the roots of the tree kind of probably give you some of that idea. So kindly bent to free us. This is not at all a death metal rooted rock band or album. I love the progressive rock that's being emulated here on all sides of the spectrum. The songs are executed in a mindset of building in a hypnotic kind of way, but in also a theatrical presence, almost like Rush in that regard. Not the voice of Geddy Lee though, nor the delivery vocal. The vocal here is a little bit more Mars Volta.
Okay.
They might just be one of the best progressive rock bands around today that are really not known. They have the chops, make no mistake. It's a great listen. It's not missing a thing, really. It put me on notice to go back down the rabbit hole. I think there's actually a record maybe ahead of this too. Although I don't think I'm going to stick my toe in the death metal pool at this point. So
it's interesting you say even with the death metal side, like I'm just pull death metal aside and just let's label metal into this. We're starting to realize more and more, for those of us who appreciate and listen to a lot of music, that we stumble upon things in metal where you kind of say, this has elements of not this genre.
Right.
For example, the Danny Warsnop album, Shades of Blue, that we talked about.
Right.
I always talk about loving the Band I Prevail because of the vocals, because even for the unclean vocalist, you have another one that just sings in a way that you're like, damn, that's still good over top of it. And I think you're starting to realize in metal, more and more that you listen to it, you can pick out or stumble upon those ways where there's a little bit more of a composition element or a musical element that isn't just, let's be honest, when you ask any common person with a lower tolerance of music, what they think of when they think of metal, all they immediately start doing is doing the mumble scream, and you're just like, yeah, you don't get it.
Honestly, I think when it comes down to this, and I give everybody listening an idea of what was also going on in my ear, because I can list a bunch of albums I've listened to where most people probably can't. So this was an unusual release week that just happened. Okay, you had Metallica on one hand, and you had Overkill on the other. Okay, both considered metal bands, maybe not by fans of Metallica prior, but the actuality is they released on the same week and they're kind of in the same genre. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm listening to Cynic. Meanwhile, I'm listening to something else that was metal-ish. The music itself, bar none, okay, and I don't think anybody can argue this. It's rooted in the blues, period. It is a blues riff, or it's a blues harmony, or it's either sped up, added. The thing that drives me to label it is the vocalist, and whether the production, how the production is. So here's the difference. Metallica's record, people can say whatever they want, it is masterfully produced. Every record they have made is masterfully produced. I don't care whether you like it or not. When you go to Saint Anger and people are like, oh my God, those drums. It's purposeful. It's crazy, but it demands your attention, and it's masterfully done by a guy who can play drums madly, right? You look at the Rollins band, okay? I never liked the Henry Rollins band until I went and saw him. That whole screaming thing, right? Right? But then I went and saw him, and I'm like, God, this is a blues band. This is a hard rock blues band. And I dug it, right? It's you got to get past the vocals. And then Overkill, okay? Everybody says that's the better album than Metallica. I don't know what they're listening to, but that album is not well produced. There's no bass in it whatsoever. It's too high. I understand that they did more tricks. Okay, they took more risks. They got some cool sounds in there with the guitars, but everything else is a mess.
But it's funny. It's so funny that you say that, because this again goes back to what I just said. The Danny Worsnop album. It's blues.
Yeah,
it's getting away from rock.
No, he does country too. And for those that are maybe not know, Danny Worsnop is the lead vocalist for Asking Alexandria. So
it's funny though, but like, and there was another, and I think what goes into the Metallica side, it's funny how this kind of lines up with what I saw this week. Just a targeted Facebook thing that recommended you may like, was a Howard Stern interview with Metallica, and then performing in studio. And they talk about their song composition, even Back 10 or Sandman, which arguably is their biggest hit. It was interesting that they just talk about how selfless the band was in the recording studio, that any of them could bring up an opinion on someone else's instrument and say, why don't you try this? Why don't you do this in a different key? Why don't you try this a little higher, a little lower? Why don't you add a drum fill here or there? And they talk about how they've never judged each other going through that process. And I think that only goes to show in the quality of the work that they've put forth, that they'll take the input from each member. And it's not a, hey, I play the guitar, you stick to your instrument, I'll stick to mine, and we'll compose it the way it needs to be. They act what we don't see as listeners, as a band behind the scenes. I think that only goes to showing the quality of the work they put out. It just does.
Yeah. So we lost Jeff. I'm assuming he didn't have another one. I knew that I had three, and my third one was very purposeful. So I will go to that at this moment, and then we'll close it out.
Had some good banter over here with this. And by the way, a little for us that don't know, with this show, we're not just music aficionados, we're also hockey fans. Winnipeg is now up 1-0 on Vegas.
No.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff's a big Vegas fan.
That's probably why
he had restaurants in Vegas and done that stuff. So,
Ah.
So I'm gonna end tonight with an album that so this individual has a very, very large catalog, and he's done just about every genre you could possibly want. When this came out, it happened live in Dublin. The audience was flabbergasted because they were expecting something else. The artist did what the artist wanted to do. I don't know how I would have felt at that moment had I shelled out a ticket. But this album remains with me each year. I put it on. This was the week. It is a rock opera, but it's not rock. Or is it? It's just not what you'd expect. This is Neil Young and Crazy Horse's Greendale. In the vast catalog that is Neil Young, I hold this album in very high regard. That would not be popular. That would be contrarian, because a lot of people are not fans of this record. Let me tell you about it. So the songwriting here is somehow Neil Young at his satiric finest, his reflective finest, and utterly mesmerizing conductive best with his favorite bandmates on a journey that's basically based on a family experiencing these odd throes of life, of commitment and public eyeballing. It's filled with scrutiny and conspiracy theories, and all set in this fake seaside town, we'll call it. He doesn't waste a minute lyrically with this. And the song that starts, called Falling From Above, and obviously these are the characters telling the story, but the characters are self-aware that Neil is singing, which makes it kind of unique. The lyrical line reads, "I won't retire, but I might retread. Seems like that guy singing this song been doing it for a long time. Is there anything he knows that he ain't said?" One of the things about Neil is he's self-aware. You know, he doesn't have a vocal, right? Even in other songs of other albums, he says, "We don't have a vocal." You know, he even says in his own music. This album is blues, rock, harmonica that's packed with simple, emotive playing, a lot of rhythm, and even an oddly out of tune, purposely acoustic guitar on Bandit, which is something only Neil Young can do. It's hearkening to a melody, even in the seemingly broken acoustic guitar he seems to be playing. The strings are just unwound, and it just the note hangs and it twangs while he's singing this song. This is his Dylan Highway 61. Dylan's Highway 61 is maybe it's 18 minutes. I can't really remember off the top of my head. It's a brilliant song. It's very long. This is Neil Young doing it in 1 hour and 18 minutes. Starts right off and goes, that deep. I have to look now. It's relateful. It's peaceful to listen to in certain aspects. It's angered in certain aspects, but I always look past the politics because Neil wears his political hat on, on tight. It highlights an astonishing catalog of a guy at age who makes this, which is basically a concept record, at age 57. Of course, you do get to feel the horse. Everybody knows what I mean by that. Usually, if you're Neil Young, it is the guitar feedback on Sun Green and Be the Rain. It is, if you've never heard it, if you stayed away from it because so many people said something, I really encourage people to sit down and listen to it and get enraptured in the story. The characters in this are well thought out. They're simple people, which is great because that makes it very relatable. So my final one is Greendale from Neil Young and Crazy Horse.
You said that once a year you usually come back to this album. I can't remember if you said it's around this time of year.
No, it usually what
Or
happens
is it
is
just, I wanted to kind of get a feel for the vibe, the mood that gets you going on this.
So with Neil, it's a different, because here's a guy who's rockabilly, country, blues, seemingly ridiculous hard rock with huge feedback. My usual gravitate to my favorite record of his is Freedom, okay, which really was the alternative moment where people were saying, Jesus, this guy's the godfather of alternative music or grunge, right? It's kind of Pearl Jam would cite him, and then they even played with him, So that was kind of there's just songs on that record. I play that record more. This record once a year. Sometimes I'll be traveling. If I'm going to, I used to have to, with hockey, I had, coaching that were an hour, 2 hours away. My daughter played too, which was, those are trips for that. It didn't matter. It's not a timing thing like Gord Downie and the Tragically Hip, maybe where I might play that during the time of his announcement of having brain cancer or his death. But it's just something that I start to go, geez, I need to listen to something that has, it's a story from start to finish with, you know what I mean? Another thing that's like that is you can go to a musical, okay? Like Miss Saigon, Phantom of the Opera, that kind of thing. But I went and saw this, by the way. I paid the money and I went to Saratoga Performing Arts Center and saw this show live. Now, Neil did change his presentation after the Dublin thing. I think a little bit later on, he came out to everybody, goes, I want you to realize we're going to do this album start to finish because it has to be done that way. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Okay. But he said, when we're done, the encore, it'll be Crazy Horse, Rockin' in the Free World, and all that stuff. So it was a great show. I had a good time. I think Lucinda Williams opened too, who's quite the artist as well. So I encourage people. It's
awesome.
It's an interesting record, and usually with concept records, when people put that much effort into it, it's usually something that you need to take another stab at, even though you may not. It happens. Concept records don't go over that well. They're a risky thing. I think there's a lot of record companies that go, God, please don't do that. And then when they do it, they cross your fingers. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, The Wall.
I always think of Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy's who's Tommy? Yeah, and especially if you're an unknown artist. I'm trying to think of like an unknown artist that would be a cool show.
An unknown artist too.
Like an artist that doesn't have that kind of thing. Who they did a concept record, like wow, and it's the best concept record you never heard. There you go. That's.
I would love to. Oh shoot, Seattle's up 2-0. I would love to see I wouldn't be surprised to see some Canadian band do a concept album on the hip. I would not be surprised to see
that story.
And whether it's even generally about the hip, about Gord and the final days, and especially the initiatives that he really stood for at the very end.
There's a concept record, right? Secret Path that he did.
There is for him.
That's sort of a concept record, I guess. You can go Our Lady Peace's Spiritual
I really say it was more themed. I really say it was more themed for that final Gord offering, but I could see a band doing it on that whole process and going through that and the learning and the discovery. I just think that Spiritual Machines, yeah. The thing is with Our Lady Peace doing it is the first version sounded like an album, and I took it as an album when I first consumed it. I think I don't. The second one lost me. It didn't. There was no grasp. I didn't feel the continuation of it into the second one because of that. Maybe that gap that was between the two. But it didn't give me that. It didn't pull me. It didn't pull me in.
If we were to do a catalog of Our Lady Peace, that record would be would be the back of the catalog.
And Naveed would be the top album.
When Naveed is very hard not to. It's probably top. That's an album I might have to put in my ear soon because it's been a while. It is for a band that a record company said just do whatever you want. We don't have time for you. That was just a dynamically produced debut record that had everything of the time in it and a unique signature, because Rain Matier's voice is ridiculous. It is no longer ridiculous, and I think it's some of the problem.
Live it has definitely suffered from what I've heard of live performances, just from recordings. And I honestly think, like, when it came to Our Lady Peace, and again, this could go back to what you were just saying with his voice and how it's changed. Our Lady Peace was at its best when there was power behind their music, and there was tempo, and the vocals just seemed to match it. Now it's just kind of, this is disrespectful to a band that's done so well, but it's talking over noise. It's getting closer to that.
You got to know, it's hard. I honestly, my number one thing about these people is their ability to either understand where they are vocally, instrumentally, what they can deliver, and morph, right? Because this isn't progression now. This is morphing.
Yes.
Okay. You can't do what you used to do. Okay. The Rolling
and
Stones.
That just, it comes with
listen,
age.
if you don't make it complicated, okay, the Rolling Stones, it's okay. They can get away with it, right? Other bands that don't make it complicated. Metallica is going to have to start being this way, because you can do the speed thing in there, but the fact of the matter is, getting it live, row, right?
Well, and the Stones stun me. They always will. It'll stun me the day that Keith Richards somehow physically leaves this world, because I don't understand that he'll ever do that in the next 200 years. I honestly, like, and you know what? Well, say, just since we're on the Stones, the Beatles, look at how much McCartney's evolved. And he's not even vocally involved in some things. Again, and this is me pulling from my Foo Fighters love. Sound City. He's not vocally involved there, but he's musically involved, instrumentally.
No, he did a harmony in the one, because I remember him yelling. He told the producer.
Yes.
He told the producer, "If you need me, tell me to do whatever you want." He goes, "Did he just tell me, Sir Paul McCartney, that I could tell him to do whatever I want?"
But again, that's also not Paul putting himself at the forefront.
Correct.
That's him putting himself as in the back. It's, you know what? It's the NHL playoffs. Here's a great analogy. It's like that veteran who, in the prime of his career, could lead a team to the playoffs and be the star player on the team throughout his prime of his career. He's now hit the age of 35 or 36. He just doesn't have it anymore, but he has enough that he can be in the league. On a good team, they find a role and they find a place to fit in. At the end of the career, they find a place to fit in and what's useful for them. Same thing with these bands. And that's where McCartney thrives. He finds what fits him.
That's Robert Plant. You know, he's not trying to scream out Zeppelin. It's not
especially with Allison. Yes.
Okay.
No, I agree entirely. And I think that's something that you don't expect it from Our Lady Pieces. You don't expect from them this soon, I think.
Right.
But I definitely think
it's been a while.
That needs to be there.
That record was 93, 94, I want to say.
Yeah.
So that's put it at 30 years nearly.
But I will also say too, while we're on the topic of Canadian bands, and sorry that Jeff's not here, but for us locals, I was actually kind of surprised to see, and I know this is a little off topic for the What's in Your Ear thing, but Big Wreck is coming, I believe I saw, to the town ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then a venue and a band I wasn't expecting to play in this venue that I'm actually kind of intrigued by is Sloan playing at Ironworks. And in that small of a venue, I'm kind of curious to see how that ends up being. Because the last thing I saw there was a Talking Heads tribute band that was really good.
Well, what's great about the Ironworks is they've had, and this is obviously we're getting way off topic, but Ironworks has had Buckethead, what's his name from Great Big Sea?
I'm not sure.
Can't think of his name. They're starting to get niche in there, and I want to say that Sloan, to be honest with you, has started to fall a bit from their,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
saw them as one of the free concerts at Canal Side that my
still
cousin
a fun
just
band
kinda,
to listen to. I've
yeah,
got
he
records.
gave me that
and,
nudge. He gave me that nudge. His description to me was they're that band that 3 or 4 songs and you don't realize it's Sloan. And
Correct.
when I heard him, I was like,
It's a
yeah,
fun show.
this is,
Yeah.
and that kind of put him on the map for me to be at least more noticeable. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
they-
watch the iron. I look for the ironwork because sometimes they throw in some surprises, and I watch for the title of bands because that is a club now where somebody can't use their name and goes and plays under a pseudonym.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was one recently. I can't remember who it was, and someone said, "Yeah, it was that person." I can't remember. They were somewhere nearby.
Those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun. I'll kind of mention those I can do, but so I know we got off topic. That's kind of how we get with sometimes with music. I mean, if we could do hopefully in the future we can just do a live show where we're just talking and we can chat with the people online. So I want to thank my panelists. I know Jeff Johnson somehow got cut off. I know he was working on electrical on the back porch. There was a guy in the background. I'm wondering if the guy cut the power or something. And they lost internet. So hopefully this What's in Your Ear show exposed some new music, or kind of went back like mine to hearken to something older. I know that I always liked that because I love going back. It 10 years, 4 years. I missed it. You missed it. We're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Shit, I even had a Pinterest thing at one time. I don't know if that's still available. Please like, comment, subscribe, of course, because without subscriptions, we're just doing this for our own amusement, which is cool with me, but I'd rather have more people participating. More new shows coming, plenty of articles on the website. Tomorrow is Friday, so it's release week. Saturday, I'll be talking about 2 or 3 new albums that I've listened to and give you my background on that. We've got Sunday coming up, Unknown Sunday. I'm still doing the back catalog of things I talked about when I first had the website. Slowly dwindling away at that. I'm so anxious to talk about new stuff that people don't know about. And just so you know, Monday next week, we're going to do another Beyond Live, which we just did. This one will be on Clutch, Amigo the Devil, playing at the Rapids Theater I went to last week. And then we got Tuesday, we're doing, That's in Your, what's not, That's Your Band Name? Is that Tuesday? Yeah, That's Your Band Name is Tuesday. So that'll be fun. Again, that was a good show. A lot of swearing.
Definitely one of our more R-rated shows.
yes. The band names tend to get so, and next Thursday, let's see, What's in Your Ear, and then Thursday is,
We're back at this again.
no, because I do it every other, and I've got, we're gonna start with the oh my gosh, how bad am I as a host
down the rabbit hole?
No, not going the rabbit hole. That's a hard one right now.
Well, while we're needing filler, we've been going so off track that Seattle, Colorado is now at 2-2.
I figured it was going to be tied. They're not going to let them get away with.
This is an unbelievable playoff season.
Same but different. We're a new show.
Ah,
This Thursday we're going to do Same but Different. And should I give it away? Same but different. Should I give it away? No, I won't yet. Maybe on Tuesday's show I'll give it away. But I'm going to let the panelists know by Tuesday because we're basically Same but Different means everything's the name of the song and everything is the same. Bands that played it are totally different. And it's not covers. It's just that song made multiple times by different people for different kind of sounds and everything. So it's kind of cool. It'll be a good exercise. So thank you again for everyone and happy listening.